Passage 2. This passage is a review or a critical analysis of a book called The Stuff of Thought by Steven Pinker. Remember, when it's a review of a book reviews follow a general pattern. Generally, I'm not saying always. The general pattern is the first paragraph tells you about the book. A quick a recap or summary of the main points of the book. Then the author picks out areas which deserve special mention, saying this was good, this was not, and then sums up by saying what is the primary contribution of the author in the book, what are the negatives of the book, summing up. So the first paragraph will have a lot of important points. Okay, all right. The Stuff of Thought explores the duality of human cognition. What's the book about? The duality of human cognition. Then colon. Now what does a colon or a semicolon do? It expands. Generally a colon expands the idea given in the previous sentence. So what does he mean by the duality of human cognition? The modesty of its construction and the majesty of its constructive power. Its construction is rather modest, average, but its constructive power is majestic, very high. Pinker weaves this paradox. Which paradox? That something which has a modest construction, a very average construction, that is human cognition, has so much power. This paradox from a series of opposing theories. So he takes a series of opposing theories and he builds or weaves this paradox. What are the opposing theories? Philosophical realist and their theories. Philosophical realist thinks that perception comes from reality. Idealist thinks it's all in our heads. So here you have the two contrasting opposing theories. Philosophical realists think that our understanding or awareness comes from reality. And idealists say, no, it's all in our mind. So these are the two contrasting theories here. For example, he has given. There are a series of contrasting theories. So you can anticipate that further in the passage, he will give two other opposing theories or maybe more. Idealists think it's all in our heads. Got it? Pinker says, what does he do now? He builds his paradox. He says that it comes from reality, but it is organized and reorganized by the mind. So he is playing the umpire here. Reality, perception, he says, yes. Source is reality, but it is organized and reorganized by our brain. So both are partly correct. That's what he says. That is why you look at the same thing from different perspective of different views. Next part. What are the another series of opposing theories that he is taking? The clash between ancient and modern science. Philosophical realists versus idealists, one opposing theory. Second opposing theory is ancient and modern science. Aristotle, so he's now going to ancient science. Aristotle thought projectiles continued through space because of force propelled them. He thought they eventually fell because the earth was their natural home. Modern science rejects both his ideas. His idea about propelling a projectile going through space because of some force, and reject his idea of why they fall on earth. Modern science rejects both these ideas. We think in terms of force and purpose because our minds evolved in a biological world of force and purpose. Modern world bases its theories on force and purpose. So our mind always thinks in terms of force and purpose. Not an abstract world of vacuums and multiple gravities, which is traditional science. Aristotle's bad physics was actually good psychology. So this is tough. One, he did philosophical realists, idealists. Second, Pinker is talking about the clash between ancient and modern science. How can we be sure that the mind works this way? How do you know that the mind works on the basis of force and purpose? Pinker says that we can be sure that the mind works this way by studying its chief manifestation, the language. How do you know the way the mind functions? Through its manifestation. How does the mind is here? How does it manifest itself? How do we see the functioning of the mind? Through language. Variations among verbs reflect our distinctions among physical processes. Nuances among nouns illustrate the alternate interpretations built into our basic so nouns, verbs, and later metaphors all play an important role to tell you how our mind works. Metaphors turn out to be a crucial talent. It parlays clued animal knowledge into human advancement. Think of only this. Language is the manifestation of how the mind functions. We know how the mind functions through language. So nouns, verbs, metaphors, all these that we use show how our mind works. Clear? The whole paragraph is about that. From physical journeys, we build an understanding of relationship, metaphors, structure, even our most advanced ideas. Even our most advanced ideas are structured by metaphors. And he gives beautiful examples. Heat flow, genetic code, natural selection. Some thinkers, now he's talking, some people are worried that this power to frame perceptions can run away with us. This power to frame all our perceptions in terms of language, metaphors and all can run away with us. Run away with us means get out of hand. Some people worry that this might happen. Nature isn't the only external standard by which we can evaluate and revise frames and claims. So frames are made through perception, through language, right? Then he says it's not just the natural world, genetic flow, natural selection, not just the natural world where we use frames and claims. We also use these in social behavior. If frames overpower rational criticism, Pinker asks, why did quasi-relativists write books rationally criticizing frames? So what is Pinker's view? Remember, there is an if there. So people criticize maybe that frames overpower rational criticism, but Pinker challenges them saying, if that were true, then why do relativists write books rationally criticizing frames? From this, what is he saying? That frames are rational. Right? Get that. If frames overpower rational criticism. So, Pinker is saying frames don't overpower rational criticism. Frames are rational, based on rational. That's what he is saying. So, remember that. There's an if there, and if you don't read it, your understanding of Pinker's view will go. The medium belies the message. The medium isn't just reason, it is language. So the frame, the basis, the medium is language. Language is important to the functioning of our brains. It's the language that is important. And language isn't just the manifestation of one mind. It's not just my mind and your mind, not just one head, one mind. It's the joint manifestation of millions. Language is the joint manifestation. Manifestation means openly seen. It is the thing that comes out of millions of minds working. The reason language works is it reflects the world as we jointly experience it. It's not the experience of one mind. It is not the reflection of the functioning of one mind. It is a reflection of the functioning of joint experiences and millions of minds put together. Clear? This paragraph and the first paragraph are the most important paragraphs in the passage. You understand this, you can answer any question. Let's go to the last part. Again, I told you book reviews. First paragraph will tell you about the book. Second and third will take out the important aspects. And the last paragraph would be a concluding statements. But here the passage may not have the entire review of the book, right? The passage is just an excerpt of the review of the book. So let's see what this paragraph says. That doesn't mean we always use language to convey reality. Yes, language conveys reality, but it's not that we always use language for that purpose. That's one of the purposes, but we don't always use it for that purpose. Language is a social medium with social purposes. So language is also used for social purposes. Sometimes we use it not to communicate facts. One of the uses to communicate facts, but sometimes we use it not to communicate facts about the world, but to filter them. Keep it away. Not just to communicate, but also to filter the facts. We euphemize bribes. So bribe is the reality, but we euphemize it. We make it sound a little less unpleasant by making it sound like contributions. Why? To preserve the dignity of lobbyists and legislators. We phrase treaties vaguely because if they were clear, nobody would sign them. So we use language for our social purposes, for our social objectives. And so bribes are called contributions, treaties are not worded very clearly so that you don't know what you're getting into. We complain about double speak, right? When you say something and do something, hypocrisy. But rely on double meanings. We use a lot of double meanings. Our reliance on communication or filtering of what we mean to say is based on double meanings. In sum, what does Pinker warn us? The machinery of conceptual semantics. Semantics is meaning, the science or the study of meaning of languages. Conceptual semantics, concepts being explained through language and words, make us permanently vulnerable to fallacies in reasoning. So we can use words, our concept or conceptual semantics can make us susceptible, vulnerable, weak to what? Fallacies of reasoning. So that you use words in such a way that your logic is all gone. So the machinery that we use of conceptual semantics makes us vulnerable. Vulnerable to what? Because we are using language, we are using words. Words can be twisted, and when you twist them, you are always susceptible to fallacies in reasoning. All right, excellent passage. Just needs a little bit of reading and understanding, little bit of simplification, and you're set. Don't get daunted when you see these words. Oh, semantics, what does it mean? All right. Question 6. On the basis of the information in the passage, Pinker and the philosophical realists may disagree with each other on which one of the following. Remember, what did the philosophical realists say? That our perception is based on reality. What did Pinker say? He combined this with the view of the idealists and said, based on reality but interpreted by organization and reorganization in the mind, right? Therefore, on what basis will they differ? This point. Which option gives this point? Perception is inherent and internal. Pinker and the philosophical realist said based on reality. Pinker agreed. He did not go beyond that. So they will not disagree on internal and inherent quality of reality. Perception comes from reality, but reality is modified by the mind. So this is the option. This is the theory of philosophical reality, and this is Pinker's definition. Therefore, this is the area on which they will differ. This point of the philosophical realists versus Pinkers. So this is the point on which they did. Philosophical realists will not agree with Pinker's interpretation that reality is modified by the mind. So they would disagree on that. Aristotle was correct about projectile motion. No, that was rejected by modern science. The power to frame perceptions can become uncontrolled. This is some thinkers, not philosophical realists and not Pinker. Therefore, the correct answer is B. Clear?